right. Well, then let's get started. Today, I
Mhm.
welcome Sahar Hashemi, OBE. And I'm really thrilled because you're already the second woman I have on this podcast that has the honor of being awarded with this title. I mean, it's more
Yes,
than a title.
exactly.
It's for your outstanding contributions to the British Empire. And your colleague, so to speak, Edwina Dunn, has also been
Absolutely, who
on
I
this.
admire
Oh,
very much.
oh yeah, me too. What, yeah, an inspiration and trailblazer. But well, reading your CV makes me equally breathless and energized at the same time of what is all possible. And you're not only a lawyer, but an entrepreneurial force and successful author of Anyone Can Do It, which I love. And I read that it's the second highest selling book on entrepreneurship after Richard Branson's
Yes.
book, which of course is amazing. Brava. Um,
Thank you.
and before we get into the pivotal moment and the turning point, which is what we are talking here on Shift Happens, I wanted to ask you a few questions.
Of
What
course,
is
please, Claudia.
what is your current state of mind?
Very, very positive, actually. Yeah. I don't know if we can talk about seasons, but it's a Christmas season. I absolutely love it. I can't get enough of it. And I
Mhm.
almost wish that they would stop, that this time would stop really now because I just love it too much, I have to say.
What do you love about it?
Oh, I just love the festive season. I love the lights. I love the spirit. I love everything being lit up to its full capacity. And just everyone living life to the full capacity. Every restaurant you look in, someone's celebrating.
Mhm.
And I was talking to a friend and she was saying, "Oh God, I hate it." And I was like, "How can you hate this? What is there to hate?" And as I'm
Yes.
talking to you here, I'm looking at my own Christmas tree glittering and sparkling. And I wish it was like this every day of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, very uplifting. I agree. How would you describe your idea of perfect happiness?
Um, Perfect happiness. I suppose it's something I remember once my husband telling me, someone to love and something to do. Um, there was a third one, but I forgot what it was. But it is when you get have love in your life, I think, and you are fulfilled.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, to be said, the gift of health, but um, I can't imagine anything better than that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. Which living person do you most admire?
Gosh, it's a strange one. There's definitely not a person. There are little bits of so many people around that I
Mhm.
admire. Just anyone who's just living life to the full and living fearlessly. And thank God for social media. We can sort of get a glimpse a bit into this. And
Mhm.
so I always think kind of, about role models. And I always think, I probably have 100 role models. And there's bits of each of them that together
Mhm.
make one whole, incredible full force role model for me.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, well said. So, you are so busy. You are a serial entrepreneur, and you you started your first big business together with your brother, Coffee
Exactly.
Republic, which was the first US style coffee bar in the UK. And only after 5 years, you exceeded all expectations and had about 110 bars and millions and millions and millions, up to 30 million pounds in turnover. And then you founded another brand, Skinny Candy, a brand of
Exactly.
sugar-free candy. Um, so do you just have too much energy, or I mean, this is amazing. Also because at a time before. I mean, at the moment, I think we talk a lot about female entrepreneurship,
That's
about
right.
women in finance, about women creating wealth, female financial literacy. Is worked on. We are all still not at par, but you really were ahead of your time in this business. So, how then did you come to embark on this even new thing, which you described is your big recent pivot?
As in, you mean a Coffee Republic or
Yeah.
what
No,
I've
no,
done
I mean,
since?
yeah, since when
Yes, did I
because you
say Coffee
said that
Republic,
in.
I suppose, was my main pivot from my life as a lawyer into entrepreneurship. And I suppose that leap into entrepreneurship has sort of defined what I've done since. It's been a very long time. So I sometimes feel embarrassed talking about something which I did back in the early 90s. So it's really talking about the past. But in terms of it's interesting thinking about it, that there weren't that many women, especially in the UK. I suppose I didn't really know concept of business women as such, but I think maybe the biggest gift I got was from my parents, um, and specifically my mother. And maybe we were lucky back then that, there was no social media, and so we weren't aware of other people's successes. So we lived a bit more into the tunnel of our own success
Mhm,
and our own capacity. And I think the biggest gift I got from my parents, was the gift of self-belief,
mhm,
because self-belief and confidence, it is a really interesting thing. I think, um, and I know as parents, you know, parents struggle with how can I give my child self-belief and confidence. Whereas, I don't believe it's something that you can give someone. You can't tell someone they're brilliant. However much you tell your child how wonderful they are, that's not going to make them confident. Um,
mhm,
I think what my parents probably, got very early on, I don't know how they got that, was that actually um, self-belief is almost evidence-based.
mhm,
It's something that it's self-credibility.
mhm,
So it's actually genuinely proving to yourself that you can do it. Um, so genuinely pushing the boundary, making yourself do it. And then once you've done it, you're like, oh, I'm capable of that. And slowly you start to sort of chip away at self-doubt,
mhm,
and you start growing your bank of self-belief. And I
mhm,
think that's really where, when I think of my, 24-year-old, 25-year-old self that was embarking on entrepreneurship, um, it is because I had that bank of self-belief. I just remember, and I was not at all academically strong in any way. And my school years weren't a success. I was kept getting rejected. I would want to go to the best school in the girls' school in England, in London. I would get rejected. I would want to, go and study law at Oxford. I got rejected, but in a funny way, doing all that and even getting rejected and then getting the next best thing, um, was slowly making me believe in this sort of old tunnel of mine, um,
mhm,
that I could actually do it. So when I think about it, actually, Claudia, it's very interesting. It's sort of much more myopic at that time because I wasn't
mhm,
looking at anyone else. There was no one else I was following. I was following my own heart, and I
mhm.
had learned to follow my own heart. So I knew that when I was a lawyer, I wasn't happy. So I just knew
Yeah.
that every day when I went to the office, there was something. It was just like, oh, this just feels dreadful. I'm not
Mhm,
using myself. And I could see other people doing really well. I could see a lot of my contemporaries really shining. And it
mhm,
was a terrible feeling like I'm not shining, I'm not thriving as a
mhm,
person, I'm not,
mhm,
I'm not playing to my strengths. So it was very, very much, quite much more myopic, much more tunneled vision about myself
mhm,
and what my heart needed and what my
mhm.
soul needed for growth. And I think we've
Yeah.
got to be so much more aware of, you know what I mean? It's just that what the outside world says, but our soul is always yearning for growth, for um, pushing ourselves beyond, for a bit for self-discovery, I suppose. So,
Yeah.
so
And
that's
thank
what
you
I
for that.
followed. Sorry, that was
Yeah. And thank you for that. And that's why I think it's important also to look at the past, yeah, because it
Yes,
does pave the way right into the future. And you said that in COVID, where you had time, like we all had, and we were blessed to go
yes.
and have time and go through it, that was another pivotal moment to think and rethink what would be next for you. And that would be great if you could elaborate a little bit, how this discovery, this new discovery came about,
Mm.
and how you use this time of free space in the mind. Because as you said earlier, I mean, we all get so busy and busy and busy, busy, and then nothing new can flourish really.
Exactly, exactly. And it was really during COVID, I suppose, like every other country in the world, March 2020, everything stopped. So, and I was at that time very busy with speaking. My book Startup Forever had just come out. So on the back of sort of entrepreneurship in large companies, I was very busy traveling, speaking. I remember I got back from a trip to Dublin, and then that was it. Sort of, it was
Hmm.
like literally lockdown. Literally, figuratively and literally. And I remember it was that joke, if you remember, we used to make the whole time of, oh, who's going to write the best-selling book and
Yeah, yeah.
that sort of thing, wasn't it? Just, who's going to, and there was that pressure. I remember like some posts of,
I
this is meant to be
know.
your moment. And I didn't do any of those. I remember it was funny. I don't know how we all survived when we think
Hmm.
about it, really, all
Hmm.
that time
Hmm.
that we somehow did survive.
Hmm.
And it was really only when I remember it was in November where we had another lockdown in the UK again. Um, and I remember thinking I had to have this very minor foot operation, but it was had to mean that I couldn't walk around much. And I remember thinking, well, this is the perfect time to actually have
Do it.
this
Yeah.
kind of little bone on my foot straightened. And it was really that time that I'd had this, and I just had some time to just be still. And I don't remember where I was in my house. I was going through my Twitter feed, and often you can imagine when you go through a Twitter feed, your mind is just racing and so much
Hmm.
stuff, so many tabs open, right, in our mind. And I
Hmm.
remember I was where I was, my foot in front of me, and I saw this tweet, and the tweet was, "Not all of us can invest in women. Not all of us can mentor women, but we can all buy from them." Um,
Hmm.
and I almost remember the light bulb. I remember the big message. It like the
Hmm.
skies had opened. I remember it was a
Hmm.
really powerful energy I felt actually when I
Hmm.
read that. There was something that said something to me. And I remember immediately I sent an email that thank God now we've got proof of everything we do. I sent an email
Hmm.
to the person that wrote the tweet, who was a very powerful woman called Jacqueline de Rocos, who was president of Tech UK. And I said, that was really powerful what you said. I'd never seen that before. That was really amazing. And I know like how I got to say maybe we sort of should start a movement
Hmm.
around getting people to buy from women-built businesses, because there was a lot of conversation around raising money. There's always
Hmm.
that conversation, I'm sure, in every country.
In
Um,
every country,
but
and it's never enough.
actually, yeah, it's never. And it was actually about like that's actually a really powerful thing to do. At the same time in the UK, I was very aware of the sort of social media, what it was doing to young girls in terms of their self-esteem. I remember myself seeing um, one of those Kardashian girls, I think they were called Jenner something, and she'd had a lipstick business, and she was on the cover of Forbes as the
Hmm.
first billionaire. And I thought actually that's a bit unfair because she hasn't really started a lipstick business from scratch the way an
Hmm.
entrepreneur starts.
Hmm.
She's incredibly famous, incredibly hardworking. I'm not in any way discounting how much work it goes to become the
Hmm.
stars that these girls are, but she's given her name from her hard work in another area to a
Hmm.
brand.
Hmm.
And that's what has created the brand. She hasn't sort of built it from the ground
Hmm.
up the way I feel about entrepreneurship. And I
Hmm.
actually thought myself that time that had she been the sort of role model on the cover of Forbes, I would have never started a business
Hmm.
because I'd assumed either you start and in 6 months you're on the cover of Forbes, or
Yeah.
you just can't. So it's like about
Hmm.
kind of, that idea of, that there was no sort of element of grit or
Mm-hmm.
grime in there. It
Mm-hmm.
was just
Mm-hmm.
immediate, sort of
Mm-hmm.
overnight success. And so it was very much a couple of these factors. We'd had during COVID, there was the awful murder of this girl during in March, lockdown, she's walking alone in COVID, and some off-duty police officer had taken her and murdered her, and all the girls were going with their candles for vigil
Mm-hmm.
to where she lived. And it was
Mm-hmm.
extraordinarily powerful women's
Mm-hmm.
movement. Anyway, sort of had all these underlying sort of fem issues around women. And I'd been involved in a report that said that in the UK we have 30% less entrepreneurship than we have in other countries, female entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
So the undercurrent of a million things rolling in my head
Mm-hmm.
culminated in this tweet, as often in
All
life things
made sense
do.
and connected. Yeah.
All made sense with one thing, right? So you have a zillion ideas. And forever, Claudia, I've been wanting to write books about female entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, I was looking at something in my file. I found, literally book proposals I've written 20 years ago that came to nothing, which often shows you in life. It's just things take much, much longer than you ever think
Mm-hmm.
they would take,
Mm-hmm.
much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know, like in some random way, it all comes together, which is why you
Mm-hmm.
should never stop dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's just all
That's
eventually
true.
comes around in its own perfect way, really, which
Yeah.
I believe. So
Yeah.
yes, so that was really when I sort of as decided to start Buy Women Built, the
Mm-hmm.
movement that I'm currently part of. I At that time, the person that wrote the tweet didn't want to sort of get involved. It was just not the right time for her. And so I
Mm-hmm.
contacted someone called Barney McCauley, a man actually who I knew who was a real genius in marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
him and I had talked about purpose and doing
Mm-hmm.
something with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I just sent him a random email. It's like, hey, we haven't, seen each other for a while, but I remember we chatted about purpose. I've got this one idea about starting a movement. Are you
Mm-hmm.
interested? It took him a few days and he wrote back to me and said, yeah, I think it's really brilliant. And really him and I started just having Zooms in COVID
Mm-hmm.
and just coming up with this idea that was exciting and creative. And
Mm-hmm.
he was incredible because he really helped with the name of
Mm-hmm.
just being actionable and, coming up with a
Mm-hmm.
logo, coming up with what we want to do. And it took a long, long time with nothing happening. And I remember thinking, this is just how many Zooms can I have? It's a great idea, but how do
Yeah.
you start a movement? Sort of
How do you
great,
start a
that's
movement? Yeah.
as the sort of the world is a sort of graveyard for people's brilliant ideas that never
Mm-hmm.
come to
Mm-hmm.
anything, especially when an
Mm-hmm.
idea is so big.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually Barney, he forced me. He said, you know what you've got to do is just start a WhatsApp group.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do I start a big WhatsApp group? So I just started one by one. And I remember in February 2022, I had like I got one person in the WhatsApp group because you got to start with one person. I was like, I'm starting a movement. Would you like to come? Yeah. Bless them. I remember, I'll never forget the first three people
And
that came on
you,
it.
I mean, yeah, but it's
And
the
starting a movement
belief.
with
It's the
three
belief
people.
that counts. Yes.
Yeah. And then I
Fantastic.
was like, hey, I've got three people on this WhatsApp group, four people, five people.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got, sort of under 3,000
Mm-hmm.
kind
Mm-hmm.
of founders. We've moved to a whole community tool. We're
Mm-hmm.
changing the way retailers are thinking about women-built businesses in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
We did our big collab with Ocado, the UK's biggest online supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's suddenly the movement has got momentum, but
Mm-hmm.
it's taken a long time. And it's always my
Mm-hmm.
advice to people that actually things take time. You know what I mean? For an
Yeah.
idea to start getting traction, it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time
Mm-hmm.
until it gets
Mm-hmm.
momentum, but you've just got to
Mm-hmm.
start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really brilliant. And what do you think mostly attracted the female founders to come together in this movement? Because, it's a difficult market. I just spoke with a venture capitalist last week in Germany, but she said, 1.8% of capital is going towards women-founded um, businesses. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. So I can imagine that there's also somehow a weird competition factor maybe in there. But what do you think really brings women together? And the important factor I also find is how to celebrate each other.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting actually, because I never almost intended even to bring them together. I just wanted to start a consumer movement. And so when I got these three people on the WhatsApp, like on the 3rd of January, I then said, oh, I think we should have a coffee, because there were 15 of us on the WhatsApp. And I
Hmm.
remember Anya Heinmarsh, the handbag
Hmm.
designer, who's a good
Yes.
friend, she just opened the Anya Cafe. And she sweetly said, you know what, I'll host your coffee morning. And these 15 women who weren't friends before, just had met on the WhatsApp group, we arrived at the coffee morning. And then I was like, this is really weird. What's happening? I could suddenly see this magic,
Hmm.
because I could suddenly see that, they didn't know each other, and yet they had so much in common because they'd all taken an idea and started a business. So, however different the businesses were in fashion, health and beauty, food, it was just somehow they shared so much, and yet they were so different. And then they started chatting and they didn't know each other. And I was like, I can't believe you guys didn't know each other. Had you never met before?
Hmm.
And then they sort of just felt really invigorated, because there was
Hmm.
stuff that they could say to each other that they couldn't say to their other half or to their
Hmm.
friends. I remember thinking that that's something really special. That coffee morning
Yes.
was really magic.
Hmm.
And of course, Claudia, what we always forget is that actually women, this stupid idea we've always had that, oh God, networking happens in golf clubs and women don't network.
Hmm.
Chatting is actually the female superpower. If we're
Hmm.
in trouble, men go to cave, women chat. And the
Yeah.
chatting is the soothing, the chatting is the, ca- cathartic,
Hmm.
chatting is the catharsis in a way.
Yes. Yes. It
It's sort of,
is.
that's
It
the
is.
therapy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's why, and then that one slowly, and then the next coffee morning was, 35 people, and then 50, and then we just realized this is really amazing. And then they started interacting with each other, sharing, caring, and realizing actually it's not at all, sharp elbows or in any way competition with each other. And we have,
Hmm.
some of the UK's biggest, say, lingerie brands all together on a WhatsApp, collagen brands all together on a WhatsApp. And yet, absolutely not, because
Hmm.
they've got this mindset, I think, of an open heart, and
Hmm.
everyone's just, on their own journey, really,
Hmm.
staying in their own lane in the most beautiful way, and yet sharing, giving back, getting so much energy and support from each other.
That's beautiful. And so you started basically 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly.
And this
I've got no,
expanded.
yeah. So yeah, true. And then it's
Ex
expanded exactly. And then sort of then we thought actually the WhatsApp groups getting very crowded. And then we had, because at the beginning it was very much the bigger businesses that I was attracting, that we were attracting. And then we realized there were all these other founders who wanted to come in, and they're like some of them many smaller businesses. So we then moved to this community app and learning how to set up a kind of community tool
Hmm.
that under the umbrella where they can all share and swap ideas, swap suppliers that they like, suppliers that they don't like. So now we've got sort of, there's sort of 2,000 odd, like 3,000, I kind of haven't done my latest numbers, in this community app, really, and sharing. And we have events and we have incredible, corporate partners who I spoke to very early on and who just love what we do. So they're on the journey with us. And
Hmm.
no, it's incredible. It's kind of, the purpose has just been amazing. I mean, I just kind of, if I was to read a Christmas card for you on like kind of that I just got like from someone saying, I
Yes,
just received it
please.
actually, but can I read it for you? Yes, I just
Yes.
got it this morning. Dear Sahar, it's been a fantastic year being part of By Women Built community. It's been a dream for a girl who doesn't know proper English but embarked on a journey from China to England 15 years ago. Thank you for creating this safe and warm space for me and my company. You've showed me what's possible for a woman and how wonderful the future can be. Thank you
Ah,
with all my heart.
oh,
Yeah, it's lovely.
yeah, beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
really, really lovely.
And
And I just got another one about, self-confidence, um and it's just it means the world to me. And I haven't
yeah,
had my own children. I lost my mom, so my whole maternal sort of side is, and yet I, kind of one always wonders about purpose. and whether I'm
Mm.
making a difference. And just something like this, just for one person, is just,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's sort of, yeah.
So your personal experience of this move into this new endeavor a few years ago really, yeah, has to do with finding purpose
Yeah.
and
It's, 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 it's,
the warmth and strength of connection, of meaningful connection, right? Mm.
yeah. I mean, I was actually reading something quite interesting. And it was from a breath guru. You know, we're all learning how to breathe, which is,
Yes.
it's a sort of funny thing, is that we all need to know how to breathe rather than just
Hmm.
breathe, but we do. And I remember him saying actually that we think creativity is about coming up with something, whereas I think creativity is almost just it's just kind of channeling this creative energy that we
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
and that if you don't channel it, it
Hmm.
sort of gets stuck and kind of you feel
Hmm.
you're stuck, you feel you're
Hmm.
congested.
Hmm.
And I think
True.
once you've been quite in tune with that creative energy, if you
Hmm.
feel if you're not moving it out and if you have a
Hmm.
channel for it,
Hmm.
um, I think that's what, and I think for me, you know, having left Coffee Republic, which was incredibly creative, I really, really missed it. And writing books and speaking and stuff, pretty creative, but not really in that, you know, you're really pushing yourself and having to come
Hmm.
up with a solution.
Hmm.
Um, and I have the most wonderful team again, and now by Women Built. And I used to have a great team at Coffee Republic, but I was too young to realize
Yeah.
when you've got that super creative entrepreneurial team, how precious that is.
Hmm.
So I'm able to do it again now. Um, in my 50s, and that's like a real honor that
Yes.
I feel like it's like a gift being given to me to be able to do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, a lot of everything I speak about and everything I wrote in my book Starts Up Forever about what not to do when a company gets big, what to hold on to
Mm.
very dearly, I now practice that, and I hold
Hmm.
on very dearly to what I've got and would never lose that cluelessness and creativity that I have in my
Hmm.
team. And
Hmm.
just I just nurture it the whole time. So we never become a sort of know-it-all in a way.
Yeah. Wonderful. So you're really coming full circle with all
Yes,
this.
very much
Yes.
coming first.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember
It's
people thinking, oh
beautiful.
God, I was like, yes, and I was like kind of, oh God, I can't believe you know, I would get a chance to do it again. And I
Hmm.
didn't really want to sort of, it wasn't really sort of starting a business again. You sort of almost feel like I've been there, done that twice. I can't. And this is just amazing. I really feel it's been a real gift given to me. And um, for me, it's a sort of not for profit. You know, it's not a commercial venture for me. And it's very liberating because I just go back to my joy and go back to my heart.
Hmm.
Always, I center everyone back to our North Star,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
what we're really doing here is helping. It's just it's
Yeah.
notes like this,
Yeah.
which, you know, just
I
show
love
us
that
that, you know.
I love that it's a movement and that you stick to it,
Yes,
that it's
exactly.
a movement.
That's right. That's right, exactly. And a funny
Yeah.
way, I could just say an example is there was a wonderful guy called David Spinks about community in America. And me and Maddie, our head of community, thought, let's just have a one-to-one session with him. It's quite expensive for like 1 hour on Zoom.
Hmm.
And we were like, you know, how do you make community? And then he was like, just, you know, he literally paused and he was like, just go back to your joy. You know, you started a movement.
Hmm.
You know, don't kind of get too stuck in the community angle. Remember the
Hmm.
movement. And the movement,
Hmm.
by definition, when you say it, has got momentum. It's got
Hmm.
flow, right?
Yes.
It's got
Yes.
energy
Flow.
running through
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. So where is this movement flowing towards to? What's next in it?
Oh, yeah, do you know what? I mean, what's wonderful is I was just thinking and reading something about as the new year approaches, that I've now learned that actually, especially perhaps with the level of power or knowledge disruption, whatever AI is bringing for us,
Hmm.
I feel like I can't even write the next 6 months of it because the way the world is moving, our little brains, my little brain, can never come up with a this is the goal because it'll be
Hmm.
so limited. It'll be limited to my little human brain when there's
Hmm.
so much intelligence outside. So
Hmm.
in a way, what I tell my teams is we're really against planning. And everyone's like, is there a plan? No. And everyone's got become comfortable that we just don't plan. And we just sort of see what's next. And what's next
Hmm.
is always amazing. And when it comes, we just grab it with both hands and go with it. And then
Mm-hmm.
what next comes in a way. So much
Mm-hmm.
more like, because I used to be such a planner, you know what I mean? I couldn't wait
Mm-hmm.
till Christmas to end and start writing my goals. And it was just so
Mm-hmm.
limiting, I now realize, whereas there's sort of, I really believe in a bit of synchronicity that if we go
Mm-hmm.
with the flow of the universe,
It shows up.
many more things go with us, right? Than
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we get in our own way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is about allowing, I think,
Mm-hmm.
rather than wanting things. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a very much a state of allowing with Buy One Built and just seeing. And um, I mean, with the superstars team I've got there, they're always thinking of things, but I just don't let any of my little brain and my little goals get in the way of a movement, as you say, that's much bigger than
Yeah.
anything I
Yeah.
can ever envisage.
Yeah. Fantastic. Beautiful. And how, in this, complex and busy time, do you wind down?
I'm pretty good, I think, at winding down because I have this sort of concept, which if I work from home or if I work in the office, I used to work from home. Actually, I've forgotten that I now work 4 days a week in the office. It's so new for me having a team, so I'm not even used to it. But I very much have this idea that I get home every other day, sort of, I do some weight training, then I have a bath, and then I have time with my husband, with my dog, with my girlfriends. So that's pretty important. I'm definitely not one of those that thinks, oh my God, you know what I mean? Your computer's open at night, and um, it's just sort of almost quite conscious of living a full life. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
when I say that, it's I can't wait this weekend. I've got a bit of time, and I was like, I can't wait just to be quiet, to spend some time with my computer, like on a Saturday or Sunday, and just catch up and really be
Mm-hmm.
able to think. But yeah, but I think that's really important. The day has to end with a warm bath, and getting to a different frame of mind,
Yeah.
a real break until the morning starts again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because you were referencing breath work, is there any particular breath work that you are doing or committed to?
I did a bit less so, but I mean, I'm just trying to think in terms of now I'm kind of like loving doing sort of weights and sort of, what I mean, sort of almost like sweating it out. I think
Mm-hmm.
breath work, if ever need me, I do, you learn about all these things, so you sort of vagus nerve, this and that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm sort of quite into, all my friends tease me into the newest self-care. I love cryotherapy, so I
Mm-hmm.
regularly visit a cryo chamber for,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for 3 minutes in the cold. And yeah, all that just to keep yeah, because I think it just feeds. And I think once you realize that um what I really think is just seeing ourselves as moving this creative psychic energy, we've got to a bit remove a bit of that clutter that's around it,
Mm-hmm.
so that we are fully present and fully
Mm-hmm.
picking up what's there and going with the flow of what we should.
Yeah, and
um
can
and I don't know
connect
whether
to
or not that's because I'm
ourselves.
older. Yeah, connect to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether, because I'm older or whatever, but it's just, and I think a lot of connect to yourselves before was like going inwards, but I think this is actually about just being a bit more, getting out of your own way and actually looking outwards
Mm-hmm.
and doing some stuff and going with the flow and seeing what next. And
Mm-hmm.
slightly kind of, I think I've got to the stage of living one day at a time, but sort of almost living one day miracle by miracle, of just
Yeah.
seeing some miracle in things, and genuinely learning about gratitude. I think has been,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to say what I have learned that made a real difference, is I learned about gratitude. And I used to find
Mm-hmm.
that very weird, because I'm sure we all, it's fairly old hack now, gratitude, but I never really understood it. And then uh, I read a great book, and I've completely forgotten its name right now, but it was really incredible that gratitude wasn't, I'm so grateful for this, I'm so grateful for this, thank you for this. It's realizing that just every morning that we wake up and we open our eyes, it's actually, we don't deserve anything
It's a
we've got. We
gift.
don't deserve the fact that,
Mm.
I go on and my bathroom's hot and I put on hot water. Do you know what I mean? We sort of, it's not taking anything for granted.
Yeah.
Um, And just realizing that every single thing that we have is a gift. The fact that I live in the UK where, women are allowed to do whatever they want, where I feel safe, where,
Yep.
that's the gift. I don't deserve any of this.
Yeah.
It's sort
Yeah.
of, I'm completely undeserving, and that's really changed my yes, it's called Robert Eamon's his book on
Hmm.
gratitude was absolutely
Hmm.
incredible, and
Hmm.
it's really, really changed my mindset. And I remember meeting Gary V, Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know what you mean, the very big
Oh,
American
yeah, 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 yeah.
Gary V, he's called. And
Yes.
he invited me to do like a jamming session with him for 2 hours on a
Hmm.
speech. And I said, do you have a, and I was at that point struggling with gratitude. So I said, do you have a gratitude practice? He's like, do I have a gratitude practice? He has, what he does is every single morning, apparently, he shuts his eyes and pretends as if everyone he loves is dead. And then he opens it again to sort of
Oh my God.
remember that they're all alive. Yeah. I think it's quite
That's
an
what I used to
extreme.
do when I was a child, actually.
I really, oh, well, there you go. 'Cause you really got gratitude there but it's
Oh
really,
my
once you
God.
hack gratitude, I think you look in a different way
Yeah.
at everything being a gift
Yeah.
and a miracle in a way.
Yes, and it also leaves you, I mean, it's still, a struggle, but it leaves you at least trying to be less judgmental.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And seeing
Yeah.
the flow in a way. Yeah.
And seeing the flow.
And
Yeah.
I also like very much kind of, Course in Miracles, and Marianne
Yes.
Williamson has
Yes,
has helped me a
absolutely.
lot in Return to Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
It,
Absolutely. Yeah, I love her too. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
interesting. Yes, because people don't really understand her like as such, but yeah, she's great.
oh, I find her so not only refreshing, but it really resonates with my heart and
Great.
soul.
I'm
And
so
I think
happy.
and
Yeah.
I think she's just so great that she always went for it. And of course,
Yeah,
why should
absolutely.
I not be president? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hopefully one day. But so do you have a problem with getting energized, or are you always running on high speed so that that's not really an issue?
Yes, I mean, no problem. I mean, basically, my morning starts with I have one single espresso, and I take my little dog who's here next to me out for a walk in the park, and then I come back have another double espresso. So God knows what I did if I did, what level I'd be at of energy and headache if I didn't have the three espressos in the morning. But no, not at all. I always feel energized, and I think that's why. I'm so happy to found something to
Hmm.
channel my energy because I had much more
Hmm.
energy. Um,
Hmm.
and it's very, it's sort of definition of unhappiness when your energy that you have is not being channeled somewhere right.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and that's really coming back to your first question. I suppose that
Hmm.
that would be the definition of happiness
Happiness.
is that
Mm.
all that energy, all that love you've got has got somewhere to go to, right?
Hmm. 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 That was a beautiful glimpse into an exciting life, I think. Yeah, and what you've said about finding your purpose and creating the purpose, but also doing so not by looking outward, but by looking inward and looking what brings you actually joy and passion. I love that. It's very encouraging because what I'm doing comes from that point. But I'm
Good.
also realizing how slow things are moving and how things take time. So it's really a labor of love,
Yeah, and we all
right?
have the reminder, that things take time. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to
Mm-hmm.
remind myself, when we get
Mm.
frustrated that,
Yeah.
things take time.
Yeah.
Much longer than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one last question I wanted to ask you, by Women Build, is there like a category that is that people really, really go for when they look to buy products made by women from women founders, or is it across the board equally
Yeah, it's
distributed?
actually across the board, very much like food, it's quite surprisingly, we're very equally divided between food, drink, health and beauty, home and fashion. So, but real
Mm-hmm.
consumer products, right? And they say that if the consumer economy had a sex, it would be female, because women are, the world's consumers. Do you know what I mean? They buy 81% of kind of consumption and shopping is made by women. So, they've
Yeah.
got a really good eye into that. They've got a really good lens
Yeah. Most spending
for what will
power,
work. Exactly.
and most influential group, especially 45 plus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it's sort of they come up products they need themselves that don't
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, the definition of innovation.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Let's stick to the women. Thank you so very much for your
Oh
time.
my God, thank you. I loved it.
This was really lovely.